Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Pabs, a rising VTuber and an artist, and today we are gonna be doing... Hang on. No way I lost it. I think I lost the picture. No, wait, here it is, here it is. Oh, thank God. Okay! So, as you can see here, I have scribbled a lot of random things on a sheet of paper. There's actually more than what appears to be here, so I don't know if you can see it too easily. It's barely visible. I actually used a yellow highlighter on a couple of these, and, well, it did not go very well. I... there wasn't enough contrast, so I ended up having to hit him again with the green. And so now there's just like these small, contemptuous spaces that are just kind of out in the middle of nowhere. That being said, I am going to transfer this from the original file over to a blank canvas. I do think I want to keep it... Hang on. I do think I want to keep it vertical, though. Could I, rotate? Thank you. Okay. Yeah. The plan is generally to just kind of take this as it comes, but maybe bring them out a little bit or bring them in a little bit, depending on my specific mood for the scribble. But yeah, we've got, if you've never seen this before, I don't actually have a reference for what I do with these on hand, but essentially I'm going to try to like look at these and try to come up with like an idea for a pose, a character, an action, something from the scribble. Now, this hasn't always worked out in the past. Actually, yes, it has. What am I saying? It's always worked out. Why shouldn't things work out for me? I'm insane. I'm cracked. All right. That being said, let's just begin. Actually, you know what? I'm kind of digging on this one to start with. I was gonna start with this one. I'm liking this one because I can... It just looks kind of tripod-ish. You know, maybe, hang on. And I'm also actually thinking, maybe instead of using the normal brush tool, I can use my felt pen that I use for small comics sometimes, because I feel like that one is a... I don't know, I feel like it fits the vibe slightly better. It occurs to me that I don't think I've actually ever understood what a gun tripod is like. I understand. It's in some cases it's not even a tripod. It's just like two legs. It's a It's a bipod. Me when I'm getting home from whale school and I go like bipod. I'm honestly thinking kind of like a biomechanical thing. So maybe like, hang on. I'm thinking like some spikes. So I'm thinking like this used to be a whole person, but now it's also a... It's gonna be very Malagast looking kind of dealio. I like that we're trying to make like some kind of abomination of biology, and all of a sudden the salsa music comes on. That's very mood appropriate. Thank you very much, randomized playlist that I have in the background of my streams that I mute on my VODs. That nobody can prove that I actually do, because otherwise the evidence would be far too incriminating. If you think we have background music on these streams, no, we don't. You didn't hear nothing, alright? Nobody talks, everybody walks. That's been the law of the jungle for as long as I can remember. I haven't even been into the jungle for all that long, and that's like what they teach you like day one in the jungle. I'm gonna remove this little thing here. God, it must be really annoying to have a a bullet go through your head. You know what I mean? Have you ever sneezed really hard? I imagine it's a very similar process. I do like the idea of this being like, hang on, actually that might be kind of funny. So, what if like one of these is a normal nostril and then the other nostril is just like the rest of the barrel? No, I think we can make this like the skull. Honestly, that looks pretty sick. I like that. Yeah, maybe just a little bit more detail on the legs and such. Very nice. I don't know. I think this works really good as like a biomechanical horror thing. This is like a Resident Evil thingamabob. But yeah, that this looks like a tiny little. I don't know. For some reason, it becomes much more charming when it's small like this. Although I do want to straighten out the snout a little bit. There we go. Honestly, just turning a person into a gun just does seem like such a much more involved process than just giving them a gun. To be quite honest, like I do appreciate the aesthetics and the horror inherent to this whole idea of like, ooh, biomechanical mutation, ooh, has science gone too far? Ooh, I can appreciate that as much as the next schmuck. Don't get it twisted. But like at some point, I do imagine that it's more of a thematic thing of like, oh, look at the extent that this person has been dehumanized. But also, it's like, just give them a gun. It's literally like 5 pieces of okay, probably definitely more than 5 pieces of metal. Sometimes it's like 5 pieces of metal, but you know what I mean. It's you're doing too much. Actually, come to think of it, old like flintlock pistols, that I think is like 3 pieces of metal max, right? Because you've got like the barrel, obviously, right? Maybe an extra piece of metal to kind of keep the barrel attached to the rest of the gun. You've got like the hammer, plus whatever little hole you use to, you know, that horn that's like full of gunpowder, and you use that to like pour in gunpowder and shot, and then you like use a little ramrod to pack it in. That's definitely 5. That's definitely a sub 5er on the metal pieces count if I've ever seen one. I think this one might have had like yellow highlighter traces on it. Yeah, you can. It's faintly there. You can faintly see it. Honestly, this looks a lot cooler with the background in full opacity. I'm gonna use the yellow highlighter. This is cheating a little bit, but it's fine because it's gonna look. I'm gonna try and make it look interesting. A lot of this is gonna lean into body horror. I feel like. I feel like the gun person is like. It created a strong thesis to begin the whole operation. This is almost gonna look like a stand, I think. Oh shoot, have I been drawing on the... Oh, I've been drawing on the paper layer this whole time. Gosh dang it. Oh, that's fine. Okay, and then over here. Alrighty. Okay. My issue is like, what am I going to try and turn this bottom part into? Because I can see some ridges back here that we could do something with, but I don't know what this part here should be quite exactly. Huh, actually, wait a minute. I think we could do something with this actually. Some manner of pith helmet, perhaps? I'm gonna give the pith helmet like one little flower. I'm imagining that like this part here is like wild grass that's been attached to the helmet for whatever reason. And we can make this like a sort of face covering. And maybe the thing up here, it is like some manner of creature that is reclining on the pith helmet? I don't know. I'm throwing stuff at the wall here, and plenty of it seems to be sticking. I do like the idea that it has oh, maybe I can give it a talon. A talon would fit in pretty well with this whole thing. I do like the idea that this thing is just huge and bobble-headed. Maybe I could give it like a really I could make it like really bottom heavy for whatever reason. This is kind of like having one of those massive mane cats just kind of like hanging out on your shoulders, it feels like. I know this thing has a tail too. I don't know. I feel like giving it a tail makes it more. Of course, it makes it more animalistic, but it also makes it animalistic in like the very specific way that I'm thinking of. And I'm gonna give him like one of those falconry gauntlets too. That's looking pretty good. Okay. I feel like I'm fucking choosing which stage to go to next on like a very open-ended video game. I don't think I was built to have this much decision-making power in my hands. Okay, this thing. What should this thing be? You know what? You know what? Closest proximity rules work fine. We don't need to worry too much about like the specific order. This one's close enough. Might as well go for it. Just giving it a little bit more space. I'm picturing what I'm thinking. What I'm seeing is either like a like almost like gun-like thing. Hang on, yeah. Okay, so maybe like This is the left arm. Left arm. That's the left arm. It reminds me a little bit. Raph would remember the name of this thing. There's this very old anime about a dude whose whole superpower is that he has a gun for an arm. That's it. That's a whole series. The whole series is the dude has a gun for an arm. It's very advanced. It's very accurate. That's all that I can remember about the thing. And he just got into the weirdest, dumbest science fiction pulp adventures that you could conceive of. Was it Cobra? I think it might be Cobra. Hang on. Space Cobra. Holy shit, it was Space Cobra. My brain is awesome. How did I remember that? Hang on, I'm trying to look for one that doesn't have... Oh, here he is. Okay, so here's a picture of Space Cobra. But yeah, that's what I was thinking of when I saw this thing. I'm like, yeah, that's a Space Cobra looking arm. I remember Raph showed me an episode of this where he fought a genie. I'm like, what is a genie doing out in the middle of space? It's so out of place. Like I am also cheating by giving this thing fingers, but maybe that can be something else actually. Maybe that can be like a magazine of sorts. Yeah, I think that works. That must have been more than 2 years ago when I read that thing, and I haven't thought about it since. Why is my brain so good at recalling these specific sort of events? I guess we did talk about it at length. Maybe that has something to do with it. Hmm. Really wide, bow-legged kind of foot stance over here. I used to have this hobby during my teenage years. I would Google those pictures of like... You remember that whole fad of like cursed images? Where there wasn't really even a punchline, it was just really oddball... Hang on. I might curve the magazine a little bit, just so it's a little bit easier to tell what it is. Okay, and then that's gonna go like bum 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 bum. Fabulous. But yeah, I would Google those, but instead of like just looking at them, I would try to think about them in terms of like I found a video. I remember what kickstarted this whole hobby of mine. There was a YouTube video that put Earthbound music or like music from Lisa the Painful over the image, and it would make it out to be like some kind of enemy encounter in an RPG game. And I remember feeling very inspired by that. And I wouldn't just redraw them, but like almost as if it was a confrontation. It was quite satisfying. Yeah, I'm gonna give this guy like an insanely large hood. This isn't a hood, it's a collar. It looks like it's a baby piloting a mech that has a gun. Okay. This one honestly reminds me a little bit of like those Pokemon that look a little bit like embryos. So I'm gonna maybe like... This almost reminds me of like an almost this does remind me a little bit of those... Have you guys ever did you guys remember Ace Attorney, how Maya has that one spiritual stone charm? It reminds me a little bit of that. I'm not gonna make it that shape specifically because I think that's supposed to be like a Shinto religion specific thing, or maybe it's not as necessarily parody, but it's leaning heavily on that. So I kind of don't have a place to be co-opting it. So I'm just gonna make them triangular beads. For some reason, it reminds me more of like a Digimon. I think it's because the necklace technically counts as clothing. That's a weird thing to think about, right? Clothes very much do exist in the context of other clothing. Because I do feel like... Okay, so take this for example. I feel like a person is more naked if they are wearing nothing and also wearing a hat or like gloves than if they are wearing nothing at all. That is my spicy take, is that you can be wearing more things and still be more naked than somebody who is just straight up not wearing anything. So in that regard, I do think that necklaces count as clothing, if only in the most barest of technical senses. Like, if somebody was just wearing a necklace, they wouldn't be able... Obviously, they wouldn't be able to say, no, don't worry, I'm decent, I'm wearing a necklace. You know, I don't think that would be a viable... A viable argument. I don't think they have really a leg to stand on in that regard. Yeah, I don't know what this thing is supposed to be. Maybe it's some kind of living sapient being. That could be something. This one reminds me a little bit of skiing. Oh, you can see a couple of small blemishes on the paper here. But I guess you could also see these as like clap claws. Crab claws. Thank you. Or maybe even a windsurfer. That could also work. Let's try that angle. I feel like I already did like a surfer kind of thing at one point. Maybe if I... Hang on. Maybe if I avoid making it look like a surfboard and it's more like a futuristic hover device. I think that could assuage my sensibilities and desire for originality. Right, I do remember what it was. It was like a surfboarding donkey. Would they still be wearing a wetsuit? I guess Sort of. I could give them a more space-age wetsuit, which I guess it would just be a spacesuit, but it also looks like a wetsuit. I'm tempted to give them the... Or actually, you know what it could be? Almost like those bathysphere deep diving suits from the Victorian era. Don't know if they were actually Victorian. That is just my best guesstimation based on the sensibilities of that time. Okay. And I'm thinking maybe a truss pattern for this section here. That feels very futuristic. If there's one thing that I know about the future, is that there's a lot of triangles involved. Gonna make it look a spore creature that's only bipedal. Because I decided to do that. What do you mean that's not erasing properly? There you go. Actually, maybe I could give it just some very stubby arms coming off of this. Or maybe I could give it like T-Rex arms. What do you think? Like this. No, I feel like none of those are particularly as engaging as what we have right now. I don't know. I think what I liked about that whole thing that I used to do with the cursed images is that they did provoke that sort of curiosity of like, what is this? And I feel like that is best preserved in this case by just staying to the bipedalness. Okay, just spin this around. Okay, perfect. Can barely... What's frustrating about the approach that I'm using right now is that I feel like I'm going to forget what these are. They're too abstract in some regards. Like I feel like in this one, the human portion of it is very easily lost. And I don't know how to make it more obvious. I guess that's not really the purpose of this exercise, is it, though? I guess you could use this as a foundational block for a lot of different things. I have no idea what to make of this one, quite frankly. Unless... Hang on. I feel like you could very easily make a bunch of these, just a guy in a poncho using different instruments, but that's what we're gonna do for this one. Okay. That pinky looks a little strange. Let's retry that. This is gonna be the least guitar-looking guitar that's ever been made. Because I think this strumming pattern is definitely guitar or banjo adjacent. This looks like one of those stupid... Okay, I shouldn't call them stupid. Those strange medieval... whatchamacallits? There was a word for them. Not a lute. I know what a lute looks like, and it's not this. Or is it? Hang on. Okay, yeah, no, that's kind of lute-ish. This is lute adjacent, sort of. I don't know, are there any other strange medieval whatchamacallits that we should be aware of? I feel like we could probably find at least a couple of these. Hang on. Medieval string instruments. Okay, a guide to musical instruments of the medieval period. Please let there be. Holy crap! What the? Oh, that's a bagpipe. I was thinking that these were all individual instruments until I read the. I actually used my reading comprehension skills. Okay, pipe and tabor. Can't help but notice that a lot of these are wind instruments rather than string instruments. Okay, there's a lute. The guitar. Okay, that looks a lot like what we're using. A relative of the lute and modern guitar. A smaller pear-shaped body compared to the lute, and its neck and body are made from a single piece of wood. Oh, that's neat. Types of guitar include the guitarra latina and the guitarra morisca. Huh. Dulcimer. Oh, that looks nice. And of course, you can't go wrong with a good old-fashioned hurdy-gurdy. A strange-looking mechanical cousin of the violin. Primarily used to create drones, a wooden wheel is turned by a crank which causes the strings to play on a continuous note. Huh. That must have sounded so weird as just like a medieval peasant. Just seeing like yo virtue, and I hear yon nearest bard doth have brought a most strange and fascinating mechanism from the Northern Isles, and they'd be like, truly, and what is the name of this instrument? They call it the hurdy-gurdy. That is the dumbest name that I have ever heard of. No, it sounds cool. It sounds cool, Virtue. You haven't even listened to it. It's great, and you don't even know. This is all to say that I'm not sure what this instrument is exactly. I already forgot what the... Wait, it's called a guitar. Now I remember. Okay, and we can just add the head here. It said that the body was... and the neck were fairly short. Six strings is sufficient. Any more than that and it's overhandling it. Although I do remember that there do exist some 8-string guitars that apparently sound really nice when used with with basses and such because they can amplify the low end notes. That could be pretty neat. And yeah, we're gonna make this guy kind of fat. I feel like that's fair. And we're gonna give him legs. Because I'm feeling charitable today. Allowed to have legs? Yeah. Don't remember, having legs is a privilege that not everybody that that I don't allow everybody to have. If you have legs today, take a moment to reflect on how awesome that is. Actually, I do actually have an OC who is like a double leg amputee, so I do, that is literally a thing that I did. Everybody but her has leg privileges, and it's fine because she's kind of a she's dealing with it in her own way. God, I do need to draw more of her. I feel like my idea of what she is like has just crystallized very solidly in my head the past few months. Also, how you doing, Adept? Okay, this thing. I feel like this is almost like this reminds me a lot of those old cartoons that would have an anthropomorphized airplane. But this one looks mad as hell about its lot in life. I can already tell I'm gonna love drawing this expression. I don't know if this counts as that plain anthropomorphization phenomenon that has been observed from time to time. The thing about art, right? The thing about art is that one of the driving differentiators of just art from making random lines is intent. You do need to make art on purpose in order for it to be art. And I don't think I'm doing that. I'm doing the anthropomorphization thing the way that it is the way that it is understood per those parameters. I'm sure this is somebody's cup of tea, but you know, I'm not about to claim stolen valor. Okay, and then like this. It reminds me a little bit of the little portable Metal Gear that Otacon has in Metal Gear Solid 4. Except way angrier. I don't know why it's. I mean, I guess if I was like if I had these kinds of proportions, I would also be a little bit upset. I mean, it almost does look more like a fish than a proper aircraft. I kind of want to go back to the embryo. I'm gonna give it like tiny arms. I feel like I would be more at peace if it had tiny arms in terms of just its ability to communicate what it is. Feeling very generous today. I'm handing out leg privileges and arm privileges. Everybody gets an appendage of some description today. This almost looks like somebody stuffing their face full of paper. Let's draw that. The more I think about it, the less this idea has legs. Let's start over on this. There has to be something else we can do. We have been going on a little bit of a biomechanical lean this time around for whatever reason. I don't know, maybe if we flip it around it'll make more sense. I'm seeing a chair. I don't know if that's anything. Hang on. But I am seeing an almost kind of floating chair thingy. Chair of the future, yeah. Maybe it's gonna be some kind of sci-fi gamer. Guy who was playing Fortnite in 2377. Remember when we all thought that that VR stuff would become kind of ubiquitous in the future, and there wouldn't be, and that would be just like the future of gaming. It's just all VR all the time, and then we found out it gave half of us motion sickness, and the other half just could not keep up with the demands of space and whatnot. That was pretty funny. There used to be a VR experience cafe thing over in my neighborhood. I think they closed down a little bit before COVID because they wanted to redo that whole block. I think I like a bunch of shops from that place got shut down. I remember. But before it did get shut down, I did take my dad there one time when he was visiting me. That was a pretty strange experience, I shan't lie. I get motion sick quite easily myself, so I'm not. I don't think the whole. I do think I'm gonna get left behind by the future in that regard. Okay, how do I need to draw like the most easily recognizable gaming controller of my life. Otherwise, it's just gonna look like this guy's gooning. I need to hyper focus on drawing the most recognizable video game controller I've ever drawn in my entire life. Yeah, I gotta use I gotta use the whole CPU for this one, I fear. Okay, nothing in the middle. Cannot have anything in the middle. Definitely gonna need a D-pad because I feel like that... Ironically enough, I feel like the D-pad is possibly the least phallic part of the gaming. You know what? I don't need to continue that thought. You know, yeah, I think that's the end of transmission. I just don't need to continue that thought. Straight up, that's it. That's the whole transmission. Yeah, sometimes you need to... You have to make a lot of split-second decisions from time to time. You have to sometimes seriously wonder, okay, is this one is this the one? Is this where I draw the line? And 80% of the time you're like, you know what? I think I can curve this. It's fine. We can find a way to move past this, or just finish the thought, finish the sentence, try to damage control, and then just finish transmission. Other times you have to recognize that the best option is to just spot a good time to just not talk. There's a saying that I remember reading a long time ago that's like never miss a good opportunity to shut up. And I think you got to take that one to heart sometimes. Like how I'm doing right now. I'm not going to dwell on it any longer. The gaming chair is complete. Hang on. It's almost complete. Yeah, it's over. In this conversation, this train of thought, it has pulled its last stop. The train has pulled into this decrepit, post-apocalyptic looking area where its caboose will be used as a home for lichen and moss and black mold and all on things of that nature. I'm gonna make this like a 4-player joint. I feel like that feels appropriate. With this statement's ending, the thread of prophecy is severed. Restore to the safe game to restore to the weave of fate, or persist in the doomed world you have created. Man, it must feel crazy hurtful to be an NPC in like a Bethesda or like a Elder Scrolls game, and you get killed, and you realize that like nobody's gonna reload your save. You're not quest essential or nothing. Like they can just kill you without consequence. That's gotta suck to realize, right? I feel like my feelings would be a little bit hurt if I realized the thread of prophecy wasn't severed with my passing. I mean, obviously you wouldn't be aware of it, is the thing. Is like the other thing to me, right? Is that you wouldn't be aware of it if your specific thread... I mean, I don't know, would you be? Because like... obviously, like clearly they don't remember when you fuck up your prophecy and sever the thread of fate and whatnot. I don't think that's like a huge... I don't think they have like ripple effect proof memory. I don't imagine why the people who are not vital to the fate would be the sole exception. That is true. A lot of Elder Scrolls games do just have ghosts in as an element of the world. You might just end up lucking out and quote unquote living on as a ghost. I don't know if living on is the appropriate terminology for ghosts. Unliving on? That doesn't sound right. You know what? I'm gonna make a second gamer chair just to redeem this one. This one doesn't need to be redeemed, but I do feel it's worth to just try to at least pair it with something. Like maybe these two can be fighting it out in Guilty Gear, Strive XR Rev 3.5 final remix. I don't know. Maybe this one could be more like a stool. It looks a little bit like an ice cream cone. Just right off the bat. Shit, I should have gotten ice cream today. I had a perfect opportunity to get ice cream like 3 times today, and I didn't take any of them. I feel like an idiot. Never pass up on a good opportunity to go get some ice cream. Okay, 2 rules to life. Never miss an opportunity to shut up. Never miss an opportunity to get some ice cream. Dead serious, it can save your life. I don't know what it is about it. Maybe it's just like the fact that it's like one of the few, most people's diets don't include cold foods. Mine certainly doesn't. I don't really like cold foods in general. I prefer the things that I eat to be hot and cooked rather than, just prepared. But regardless of that, I do think like the fact that most people's diets don't include some manner of cold food makes it such a novel experience that it can't just kind of ground you in a way that few foods can. Okay, and then we're just gonna have this arm over here. Okay. This almost looks like a Wolverine mask. I still can't believe that friggin' Tom Bloom, of all people, is doing a Wolverine run. I don't even read superhero comics, and that shit has me on edge. I mean, he's not doing the art for it, from what I can understand. It's just the writing and the covers, but that's still a crazy idea to me. Why is Big Homie Kill 6 Billion Demons doing a Wolverine comic? How did that industry connection happen necessarily? It's just such a strange intersection of something that I have basically no interest in with something that I am deeply interested in. Something that I've noticed recently? There's a song, right? And I don't know why it recently became a meme. I imagine that it might be because of like the MV that was recently made for it. There's like this one Love Live song that's called like Ice Cream, right? On the topic of ice cream that I was talking about earlier. And like it has this call and response segment that's like, hey, what do you like? And it's like, I like this flavor's ice cream, but more than that, I like you. And that's really cute. That's cute. I like that. But I don't know why it suddenly became very popular. Hang on, how long ago did that? Hang on, youtube.com. Also, it's spelled like ice cream, not ice cream the normal way. So hang on. Ice cream. 2 months ago. Okay, that might explain why it suddenly started popping up everywhere. That's definitely enough time to kind of digest itself into cultural zeitgeist and start reaching my late adopter kind of sensibilities. I feel like I used to have more of a kind of bewilderedness. Yeah, plenty of time to let that thing just kind of establish a sedimentary layer and kind of get around. It's crazy how much easier this one was to draw, like, in a position that didn't look like they were jerking it compared to this one. I think I really grew as a person the 5 minutes between these two. Oh, hell no. Execute that guy. Hmm. Yeah, just completely gone from the world. It's been like it took me like they were here. They were just born today and existed for 5 seconds. And the first words out of their puny little mouths were the best viewers on Stream Boo. Hmm. I'm thinking of giving this one like a sort of angelic motif. I like the kind of shape that her face ended up making. Although I do want to retry a little bit here with the hair. Oh yeah, I was talking earlier. I feel like I used to have a lot more of an apprehension towards Love Live as a concept, just because of how passionate the fans were. And I think a lot of that kind of went away as I realized, oh, okay, never mind. This isn't like a Love Live exclusive thing. I mean, some of it is, but on the other hand, it's like this is just what it's like to have. This is just what a gotcha game is like. This happens in every single gotcha game to varying extents and degrees. It just so happens that Love Live is just really good at merchandising like all of their characters. I genuinely believe that if you have like a single Love Live character that you super love, you can find merch of them relatively easily compared to like some stuff for, let's say, Fate Grand Order. And that's why it's a little bit more easy to be insane about them. Maybe that's a factor in the whole equation, is that it's very easy to get like a physical product of this thing that you really like. Of course, I could be wrong. Not to mention that probably only applies to the Japanese fans. I imagine that for the English speaking audience, it's still pretty difficult to get merchandise. Tales all this time, quite honestly. Hang on, I need to make this so that it's more obvious that this is like a wing coming down. Hmm. This is looking very Warhammer 40k-ish. Okay, and then... I think that's enough detail for that. This definitely feels like it needs to be a sword of some kind. Like, the idea for, like, the crossguard being like that, I think it's just too elegant to pass up. Okay. Perfect. Okay, and then over here... There's probably... Hang on. We'd probably need to transition it from the blade to... From the handle to the blade somewhere around here, because there is just honestly not enough hand real estate. I'm realizing if we change the blade to be somewhere around here. Need a little bit more space than that. Or maybe it's just a really fancy shiv. I don't know, it feels wrong to give such an elaborate handle such a shitty small blade. But we are honestly a little bit out of space on this one. Unless it's not a sword and maybe some kind of key. Oh yeah. Have you seen that trend of people putting characters' faces into apples? It's really interesting, but it also made me realize that you can use the negative space of it to make an image. So maybe this one's going to be sort of like very refined. Like a maybe sort of like elfish one. Okay, sort of like that. That doesn't look at all like a key. I think maybe we can do something with the bottom of the handle to make it more key-like. We can erase a little thingy bob there. And since now the main concern isn't hand real estate, we can also just upgrade the part here to business class seating space. Okay. There we go. some manner of key-like device. I'm not really... I mean, hang on. Maybe we could have some kind of helmet here. And it's almost like a gliding suit. Okay, and then over here. Okay, I'm definitely gonna make one of these legs. What was I thinking exactly was making it bend that way? Or actually, maybe that could work, because if we make the... Yeah, actually. If we make the other leg like this... Yes, okay. Like that. This doesn't really look like much, to be quite honest. But it does at least look like something. And that's good enough. Okay. This honestly just looks like somebody having a pleasant time. Yeah, this generally looks like almost like somebody in a propeller hat kind of situation. Or maybe they're wearing like one of those this is a problem for a lot of these. A lot of these just look like configurations for those little sensory toys that they have at dentist's office that they have like for children to play with. So I need to not lean in too much into that sort of aesthetic, even though I have for a couple of these. Oh, actually, there was a trend back in the Victorian era or Elizabethan era, or one of those eras, for women to have super complicated dead stuffed birds on their hats. So maybe this is gonna be like a condor of sorts. Hey, you know what? I'm gonna give them like a flower crown for the hat. Maybe just a little bit farther here. Okay, then next up. Kind of getting umbrella vibes from this one. So maybe it's like a... I'm definitely feeling like this is somebody crouched over. Got a little bit of butt crack showing. That's perfectly normal on a beach day. Okay, and then... Maybe like this? I think the easiest way to make sure that people understand that this is like this is a beach umbrella is to give it the striped pattern. Gonna give him the Johnny Bravo shades, because sometimes you just gotta. Gonna give him the Johnny Bravo hair, too. You don't have to do that, but that one's just for me. Maybe whistling a jaunty tune, even. Okay, nice. Oh, actually, I missed one over here, though. What should this one be? I feel like my brain is actually starting to hurt from overheating and trying to interpret these squiggles. But that's fine. We only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more to go. And from there, we can just try and draw and shade them so that they make more sense when we post them full-sized. It reminds me a little bit of like one of those Flork of Crow's characters. But with like a little Steamboat Willie whistle action going on grafted into their head. Actually, you know what? We do have a little bit of what should I call it? I've got an idea for this one. So I see that we've got like a little bit of the yellow highlighter under here. What I'm thinking for this one is a sort of Discworld style turtle carrying something really big on its back idea. I've never finished reading a Discworld novel. I should probably do that at some point. I feel like I would really vibe with them. Yeah, I'm just gonna make a little lighthouse up here. You're gonna get a palm tree on your back, my friend. Does that look like anything? I mean, sort of. We'll clean that up eventually. Honestly, I'm really digging how these have come out so far. I do feel like there have been a couple of highs and lows, though. Hmm. Maybe something like that. I think this was just gonna have one of those haircuts that's like a fucked up bowl cut, but it's only on like the top half of the head. An Australian mullet of sorts. Okay, and then that's gonna come in like that, and then... I like the elegance of this curve. Feel like I'm gonna have a hard time recreating it. Okay. Yeah, I can make the mullet just a tiny bit higher. And then for this part here, just cleaning up this area. Maybe they're holding onto an MP3 player. Okay, and then over here. True fact, if you met a Sun O bracket fan in the early 2000s, they could actually do this at you with their minds. I feel like I draw this gesture a lot. Like this one where like the fingers are like curled and the palm is flexed like this. It's very diverse as an expression. Okay, just a few more to go and we can do a little bit of light brushwork. This honestly does feel like another floating chair kind of situation. I don't know. We could, because I'm thinking like this is maybe some kind of other background thing. You know what we could do? Is just kind of grab this part and then turn it 90 degrees, and that actually creates something. I do find it's a lot easier for me to build stuff that's like going upwards than stuff that's going downwards, if that makes sense. Or not downwards, sideways. Okay. Maybe it's because humanoids tend to be more on the vertical side. Okay, that's just a speck of dust. I'm gonna need to be able to ignore that. Hmm. This one kind of looks like me in the mornings. I feel like putting myself in here kind of damages the principle of what we're doing, though. So let's try something else. What we could do is give them a hat to kind of justify the blanket draping over their head like that. MC Tucked In is ready to rock the club tonight. Okay. Perfect. Should we make them a New Yorker? I keep trying to erase this speck of dust. You know what? Fuck you. Be gone from my sight forever. Gonna give him like a really big gold chain necklace too. I don't know, if you accessorize enough under blankets, you do look more like a wise, world-weary trader than you would like a tired, washed-up rapper. What letter should we put on here? How about a K? That works. Okay. Maybe stretching out my wrist a little bit might not be a bad idea right now. This just looks like a really messed up dog to me. Oh my, wait, that's actually really cute. Wait, hold on. Wait, no, I'm kind of endeared to this thing now. Like, look at it, it's so small. Hang on, I'm just kind of in wonder of this thing that I just made. I think I really need to look at a cute dog right now. Let's make that one next to it also a fucked up dog. I don't think this is a dog anymore. This looks like a grown man with a job that's just having a really hard time of it. Gonna give it like a curly tail. And I bet like this one's just like a very excitable, happy dog, and this one's just like a rock that lives in your house, but it's also like, but also will sometimes just sit on your lap and just ask for head scratches. I do think that that's also endearing in its own way. All right, we've done it. How many is that? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-ish? Almost 20, hang on. So, wait, no, let me try one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Almost 20. Good enough. Okay, so what I think I'm going to do now is actually transfer these to another canvas yet again. Get out of here, Cobra. We don't need you anymore. I don't want to play with you anymore, Cobra. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to actually increase the canvas size here. We're just going to plonk these down one by one. Honestly, I also want to leave a couple of them behind. Like this key thing, for example, I'm not really a fan of, even though I did work hard on it. Let's start with the first one that we did, actually. So this one here. We can probably reduce the line width a little bit. That's pretty good. Yeah, let's just do all the kind of biomechanical ones here first. In this kind of first batch. Vector layers are so fascinating just because of the way they work when you transform them. Because when you transform them, the line thickness remains consistent. But when you scale them up with the object tool, the lines get a little bit thinner. What happens if I turn this little embryo thing around? Hang on, so maybe I can just kind of reach over, flip this like this, and then also make it a little bit bigger. And I think with like that, it'll actually fit in pretty well here with the, to fill in that space. I just want to have the whole area kind of covered in doodles. That I think is like the ideal, is to just have as many doodles as possible in one page, occupying as much of the space as possible. I feel like that's the most in spirit of the whole thing that I can do. And just the most visually interesting as well. This guy also counts. Look at you, hacker, pathetic creature of flesh and bone. Yada yada yada. I could probably fit this angry airplane thing up here. Yeah, it's like, that's almost a perfect fit right there. Okay, what else we got? Do you reckon we can fit the two gamers in here? Two gamers from Houses of Like and Dignity? Also, I need to draw the little hover lines under this one. Yeah, that makes them look like they're actually playing together. I don't know, this one looks more fun with with this sort of arrangement. What else we got? We've got the surfboarding biped creature. Maybe we can include the little cowboy in here. I do think that this is just going to be the greatest hits. Like, it's just going to be the ones that I think look best together. We already have most of these. Okay, I think we can either fit in the wrapper and the blankie, or we can get the cowboy up in here, but not both. Or actually, the angel's like a perfect fit for that section right there. Let's put her there. What else we got space for up here? Honestly, we're very close to just fitting most of these guys in there. The only ones that I think I'm not certain about are maybe the turtle and the wingsuit guy. And the toothbrush pencil thing. The rest of these are probably fine to fit in there one way or another. Yeah, like the cowboy is a perfect fit for like this little cranny here. Okay, almost perfect. Almost perfect fit for the little cranny right there. Actually, wait, that gives me an... Hang on. I'm gonna need to select these from an egregious angle. There we go. It's at this point that I would say I should save my work, but honestly, we're almost done. I just gotta add a couple more things to it. Yeah, the tortoise could honestly use a little bit more real estate space to itself. And you know what? I bet we can fit in these two messed up looking dogs up here. Two dogs alike in dignity. I gotta stop saying alike in dignity. I remember, I know very well that that's from like Romeo and Juliet, and I think it creates the perhaps wrong impression whenever I use that phrase. This thing is definitely a pug of some persuasion. Okay. I think that's gonna be the greatest hits collection finish, because honestly, the only two that I haven't added are the only three that I haven't added are the windsurfer thing, the key thing, and this guy. And honestly, none of those three I'm particularly attached to. So yeah, I think we're good for today. Yeah, that was a fun little exercise. My head kind of hurts a little bit after trying to rack my brain thinking about like figures and such. But this is always a good exercise just because it forces you to create conventional and recognizable objects out of unconventional shapes, and that can force your hand in unexpected ways. But yeah, thank you to everybody who stopped by the stream. Is anybody streaming right now? Anybody at all? Yeah, I'm gonna pass on rating. Alright, everybody, take it easy. I will see you all on Saturday to play a little bit of Hollow Knight. In the meantime, take care of yourselves, have a lovely evening, and I will see you all on Saturday. Bye.